Are you on the fence about buying a house? Well, don't make any decisions until you listen to today's video until the very end, because we are going to share 6 reasons why it might not be the best idea for you to buy a house right now.
That's big, man.
It's important.
It's circulating in the mainstream media. Should you or should you not buy a house? It's all revolving around these interest rates that these feds have raised. I've even heard rumor that they could go all the way up to 8% by year's end. That would be wild. I don't even know what we would do as, I guess, realtors, but also buyers that can afford what these average homes are selling for right now. That's a wild thought.
But if you think about it, I mean, how else are they going to get these home prices to finally drop? Because at the end of the day, if interest rates go down, then that's going to make home prices go up even more. So I understand why they're doing that. Obviously, they got themselves in a bad situation by lowering them to record low, 3% anyway in the first place. But now we got to figure out how to clean that mess up.
I mean, hold on. Inventory might stand still for a while.
It might. But today's video is interest rates aside. So this is not a video where we're going to be sharing necessarily like, should you buy because of the state of the economy or the housing market, interest rates, home prices, all of that. Right. It's more a, should you buy because you have X, Y, and Z going on in your life, or this is your circumstance right now. So let's get into number 1. It might not be a good idea for you to buy a house right now if you don't have money for a down payment or closing costs.
Okay.
Realistically, what do we think?
I think that's somewhat accurate, because the problem is I'm working with clients right now with like the 0 down programs, and they don't have a down payment. But these loans, they're such good loans, and generally the interest rates are just the same. They're a little bit elevated, not putting 20% down, or a little bit lesser of credit scores for those type of clienteles. But for the majority, these loan programs are really the starters for them to actually gain home ownership in their lifespan.
Right.
I mean, I just feel like a buyer right now is willing to do what it takes at a lot of times, and it's because of these high rate rent prices.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to look at a full home, so not an apartment complex or a townhome, but a full house, a residential house. I mean, in our area, you could easily be spending $3,600 on these, 1,800, 2,200 square feet homes.
It's true.
And they're really nothing special. They're built in, the mid 2000s, maybe even later 2010s.
Yeah.
And I mean, is it worth it to be a renter, 100% interest?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah. I disagree with that. I think that it will, that quote of saying that if you don't have that money for both either the down payment or closing costs, you shouldn't buy. Yeah. I do think that buyers need to be aware that it will possibly make things a little bit harder for them. Mm-hmm. But I know we have seen many home buyers before, first-time buyers that we've worked with, use loan programs where they put $0 of their own money down, and then they ask the seller to pay for their closing costs. In more competitive markets than this, oftentimes we would raise the asking price by the amount of, closing costs. Say the closing costs were $10,000. We raise the price by $10,000 because the closing costs come out of the sale of the home at closing for the seller. Right. And so the seller was basically walking away with the same amount as they would have, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then we have seen those same buyers go on and sell that same house and make a really great profit. And they would have never been able to do that, after living there for so long. They would have never been able to do that if they would have waited until they had a down payment.
Absolutely.
I do think buyers need to be aware. Obviously, if you don't have a down payment, you're probably going to be in a loan program where your interest rate is quite high. But like Spencer said, compare it to rent right now, and you're going to be paying quite a lot no matter what.
Yeah. I always say, look at your current monthly mortgage versus your rental price. I mean, if it's affordable for you, then go for it. If it just simply can't be done because of the current market you're in, maybe you're just in one of those real estate markets where everything's like $800 or $1 million. I mean, I'm talking to you guys that are out of state, away from us. Yeah. And there are states where that's the case. I mean, you can't escape a real estate market or even enter or obtain a home in those situations. It's just sometimes unreasonable. So that's where a lot of our out-of-state clients, you guys that are moving here to Oregon, find us, and we help them get set up in Eugene and Portland and Woodburn and Salem, all across Oregon. And it's quite fun to do that and share their experiences here with you guys. And I mean, they've gained home ownership just elsewhere.
Yeah. Number 2 is I can't afford a mortgage payment. if you're in a situation where, I mean, if you have really high rent, then you probably could afford somewhat of a mortgage payment. But if you're in a situation where you, for some reason, just have a really good deal on rent and that is just all that you could do, you're maxed out, then yeah, it's probably not the best time for you to buy.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm prospecting a lot. I talk to a lot of for sale by owners, but I talk to a lot of buyers wanting to buy homes, right? And some people, they just drop out of the buyer's market, which is completely understandable. But one of the bigger, not complaints, but replies I get from these clients is, I can't afford a home. I don't have enough saved in my savings. I don't even own a car. Just these weird, I would assume, excuses, because in reality, you can prioritize your situations in life to get you where you want to be. If that's you, change it right now. Fix that mindset, fix that statement, and go make something that you want. I mean, quit holding yourself back based off of your words, because if somebody's saying that to a random prospect, me, in a reply text, I mean, I could not imagine what they're saying to themselves throughout the whole day in their minds. So think more positive here. If it's unrealistic, it's unrealistic, but at least speak yourself into a lie to create existence, I guess. Yeah,
well, that's true. Or because thinking like that, I feel like it'll stop you from even going out and trying to change things or trying to find a solution. If that's just your mindset is like, oh, nope, there's no way, then you're not going to be looking for a creative solution when it could come about.
And I think that's what I was meaning. Yeah.
Reason 3, I don't have good enough credit history. This could be an issue. It also could not be. I know I've seen a good deal of buyers who we passed on to our preferred lender, and they thought for sure they wouldn't get qualified because of their credit, and then they ended up being pleasantly surprised. If you've paid down your credit cards and you've kept a steady job, you may be approved and you may be pleasantly surprised. And now this is another thing that it could affect your interest rate. So if you have not the best credit, then it could definitely affect your interest rate, making you have a higher payment, making it maybe not the best time for you. So there are factors to consider, but it's worth talking to a lender, and it's definitely worth doing what you can to improve that credit right now and get you on the right track.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Reason number 4, I don't have any credit history at all. If you are a renter, you can ask your landlord about reporting your payments to establish a history, like a credit history. There are other ways to build, that history without a credit card, but you do need that history to get a home loan.
Yeah, and I mean, my parents, when I was like 18, they started a Les Schwab account. I don't know if that did anything, but I mean, there's simple little tricks or things you can do to establish credit. I mean, you can go get a credit card, go buy a candy bar once a month, pay off the credit card in full. Well, guess what? You just established credit and built it. Yeah. And just maybe try that right before home ownership if you don't currently have any credit cards drawn. That doesn't mean go out and buy a car to establish credit. I mean, your local bank, Wells Fargo, for instance, they're everywhere, just about every city. It's very easy to open a bank account, start a credit line there, and you don't have to max out the card. You don't even have to use the card. Maybe use it once a month, put it on an auto payment, do it through your online, don't miss that payment. Man, you have perfect credit. That's a great history.
It's true. We live in an era where there's really no excuse or reason to not be educated on what it takes to have good credit, because there are so many free resources out there online. We have the Google. There's so much that you can do and find out. But with all that being said, you could get all this advice from YouTube or wherever else you're getting your, credit advice from. At the end of the day, I would talk to your lender, your local lender that you're going to be using to purchase a home with before you make any big decisions. All right, reason number 5, I haven't been at my job long enough.
Which, that does happen.
It does happen.
It does happen. And
it does happen.
The thing is, I would rather you need employment longer than shorter if I'm the lender. And that's exactly what these lending institutions have done. Yeah. And based off the past, it's restrictive, yes, to get pre-approved for a loan, but that's because they're trying to help you in the long run, the buyer. They don't want to qualify you for something you're clearly not qualified to do or obtain. Yeah. It's like your daughter. I got a daughter riding a bicycle with training wheels. You're not just going to start them just without training wheels. Here you go. You're going to crash and burn or scrape your knee, right? You start with training wheels. You go slow. So those boundary lines, I think, are really healthy for buyers to have. Right. Yes, it could be frustrating, but the reality is they're here to protect you.
Reason 6, last but not least, I can't find a home I like in my price range. If that's the case, there's a couple things you could do. You could wait to buy, or you could lower your expectations and broaden your search a little bit, be a little bit more open to something that's maybe not necessarily what you had in mind, but think about how can I make it what I want instead of just buy it as what I want, especially if your budget just doesn't give you much to work with. But that is the case oftentimes because there's a record low inventory. There's not a lot of homes to choose from. We don't need to keep you guys know this if you watch any of our shows because it's a thing and we talk about it often, but that's what's happening in the housing
really
market.
wish pickings, I mean, the last time I've really seen a home where I'm like, man, that's awesome. Great price. I'm ready. I would buy it.
Yeah.
It's just been quite some time, and I'm sick of that. I'm just ready for this market to make some type of swing change. And, it has been in the seller's favor for so long. I really can't wait for it to be on the buyer's side to where we can finally and freely go find and select a property, whether it's land, it could be affordable, a home that could be affordable, but realize sellers, that's sometimes going to hurt you if you've just been holding out forever and not selling until the perfect time. So on all ends, take advantage of the time we're currently in, whether you are a buyer or a seller. It's never a good time. It's never a great time. It's up to you to make the choice. And what works best for you is for you. I would say keep your mortgage payments similar to your rental, the nearby rental area, if that's where you're currently at. If you're a current renter, well, only afford something that you can afford that rent at as well. And that all starts with talking to a lender.
Yeah.
It really does. There's nothing you can really do without talking to a lender. You can go on Zillow, you can go onto our online website, do our mortgage calculator, put the 20% down, put the 5% down, whatever. But there are additional fees that usually those calculators don't take into account, like closing costs, for instance.
Right. It won't be as accurate.
And, that is where it's very, very important. I mean, your lender, for instance, is just going to basically ask you, how much do you make a year? And it's up to you to be somewhat honest. I mean, give or take $5,000-$10,000, and they can calculate, okay, well, do you have a down payment? Yes or no? No. Okay. What areas are you looking to live in? They will pre-approve you based off the best scenario for you. If it's only a USDA home loan, that's a zero down program. If you're a first-time home buyer, those are great to be using. But realize there's a limited selective homes in your price budget because we keep referring to inventory is down. Mm-hmm. It's tough. So it's really up to you though, and it's a great time to buy. I would say still, it's a really great time to buy, but also it's a great time to be represented as a seller.
Yeah, there is definitely benefits to both in today's market that we didn't see in yesterday's market. So at the end of the day, the best time to buy is when the numbers make sense and when it makes sense for your life. And the best thing to do is just get your foot in the door in homeownership and let that first home take you to the next home.
Totally.
So thank you for hanging out with us today. We come on here every week, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't already. And also, if you are thinking about buying or selling real estate, feel free to head over to our website. We would love to help you out. I'll put our contact information below.